Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Sania Chaudhary and you are watching YouTube channel. After the arrest of Mr. Shahbaz Gill, little word came out of which police station he had been taken to or where he was being kept under arrest. The next day, when he was produced in court, a judicial remand for 14 days was sought by the police. But the judge only allowed a judicial remand of 2 days and Mr. Shahbaz Gill was returned back into police custody. It is expected that on the next court hearing, a bail will be granted once arguments have been heard from the lawyers of both sides. In response to this action of the PDM government, Mr. Imran Khan addressed the nation and explained to them the sequence of events that was actually happening, and this was merely an attempt to create confrontation between the biggest party of Pakistan, PTI, that is the only party which is being represented by a large number of people in all the provinces of the country. It seems that this matter will be taken up in court and will be decided there as to the future of Mr. Shahbaz Gill. In the past, even harsh words have been used against the armed forces by a large number of leaders from various political parties, but no one has ever taken anyone to task or held anyone responsible for this act. Much of this happened during the tenure of the PTI government, and this is being taken as perhaps a weakness of the PTI government, that they let everything go away without taking any action against any of all this. If Mr. Shahbaz Gill is taken to task for his words on the television against the institutions, then perhaps a standardization of laws should be considered for everyone who maligns the armed forces of this country. Our armed forces are the pride of the nation, and under no circumstances must they be allowed to be maligned or brought in confrontation with any political party or any entity in the country. Every step that the PDM government is taken ahead of the 13th August Jalsa that has been announced by PTI to be held in the hockey stadium of Lahore is only resulting in an increased popularity of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Meanwhile, Chaudhry Parvez Elahi has said that relations between PTI and the institutions are cordial again. It is expected that Mr. Ijazul Haq has played some part in bringing the two closer to each other. ARY had been suspended earlier for the telecast of the press conference of Mr. Shahbaz Gill. The stance that has been taken by ARY is that it is not responsible for the opinion or the views of any of the guests who come on their shows, because those views and opinions of the guests are their individual views and do not reflect the opinion or views of the ARY channel or its organization. However, PDM government is not willing to accept the version of ARY, and the matter will be taken up in court eventually. The history of other political parties is full of a lot of negative remarks and negative propaganda, harsh words said against the armed forces. A large number of social media users is seeking redressal of this act and hope that anybody and all who indulge in maligning the armed forces should be taken to task. Amidst all this political upheaval, a mini budget is expected to come soon, and it is expected to boost the current hike in inflation, and things will be even at a more difficult level economically for the public. Ahead of the 13th August Jalsa by PTI, which has been announced to be held in the hockey stadium of Lahore, controversies have already started. There is allegation on PTI of ripping off the AstroTurf in preparations for the Jalsa. However, the facts are that since 2012, a large number of non-hockey activities have been consistently held, and school events have been held on this astroturf, which has resulted in the shock absorbing mechanism being very badly affected, and it is not functional anymore. Consequently, it was already being planned that this astroturf be lifted and be sent to some smaller city as a basic provision of sports facilities for the youth of that city, and a new astroturf be laid down in this stadium. The plan and the tender stage is already in process, and it is expected that in a short span of time, the hockey stadium will have a new astroturf of international standards, and once again, the hockey stadium will be available for international level sports events. Chaudhry Parvez Elahi is already discussing the matter of crackdown on all those responsible for baton charge, tear gas shelling, torture and arrests of the general public and PTI workers on 25th May during the long march of PTI. He is discussing the situation with the Interior Minister of Punjab, and it is expected in the coming days some action in this regard will be taken. That's all for today. Take care. Allah Hafiz.